Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Alright Talk Show. And this week, my guest is spreading the love of financial education. Making money doesn't have to be hard, so let's make money simple. Ryan, thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
No worries, Shane. Thank you for having me, mate. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no problem at all. So, how's your new year been so far? I know we're only in, this show will be going out on the second week of Jan. But yeah, how's it been so far?
Yeah, it's probably been as good as it could be. I've been trying to get ahead of the game and record a few YouTube videos and write a few blog posts just to, yeah, as I said, get ahead of the game, start the year right. But yeah, obviously different New Year's this year, but it was as good as it could be. And hopefully next year's one will be back to normal.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, let's look out for that YouTube channel. Sorry, we're looking forward to that. Cool. So, yeah, I just want to start with, who exactly are you and what do you do?
So my name's Ryan, as you mentioned. I've got an account called Making Money Simple, which was started in my final year of uni in 2019. But more generally speaking, I went to university in Loughborough. I studied economics, managed to get myself on a graduate scheme in London, working as an accountant. And that's what I've been doing since September 2019. So that's the day job. Currently working as well as living in London, doing the ACA exams, hoping to become a chartered accountant and finish all of those exams in 2021. And then on the side, as I mentioned, it's making money simple, making YouTube videos, blog posts, podcasts, trying to grow that side hustle.
Yeah, I love it. And how many followers do you have now? You've done quite well.
Yeah, on Instagram, it's about 18K now. I put in quite a lot of work, particularly when lockdown hit in March of 2020. I was at home, didn't have much to do. So I was pumping out 2 posts a day and generally was pretty consistent throughout 2020 in terms of making money simple, which is something that I definitely lacked in 2019. And then luckily it's paid off as I've managed to grow my following. And hopefully that'll continue in 2021.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what? That's proof in the pudding that consistency is what gets you that following and that fan base, isn't it? And you're like just proof of that.
Yeah, it's literally consistency and engagement. Even now, even though it takes me hours every day, I'll still reply to every comment, every DM, and leave comments on as many posts as possible to help other creators out. So anyone looking to start, consistency and engagement is the not so secret formula. It's more just hard work.
Top tips there from Making Money Simple. Cool. So how long have you actually been investing, in stocks and shares and so on?
So I started in mid 2018. I initially pretty much had no idea what I was doing, but I had some savings because I did a placement year in between my second and third year of uni. And I ended up putting some money into Facebook, which actually has turned out quite well for me. But soon after that was when I done some more reading, learned about stocks and shares ISAs, about index funds. And then ever since mid 2018, the majority of the approach has been to invest monthly into index funds through Vanguard Stocks and Shares ISA. So I'm reducing my fees, reducing my taxes, and globally diversified as I mainly stick to global index funds.
Yeah, and it's more hands off, isn't it? And it's kind of like you're building wealth over the long term than looking for, quick stock turnarounds. As what a lot of people will do, they'll listen to advice from their friends or family, like, "Oh, invest in Tesla or do this or do that." And it's like, how about you invest in doing your own research?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that was, to be perfectly honest with you, it was a YouTube tip, which was why I used to watch so many YouTube videos on stock tips. And that was why I invested into Facebook. Obviously, I was lucky that it worked out quite well, but normally it doesn't so much. And yeah, as you sort of alluded to, my 2 main sort of principles when it comes to investing are simplicity and automation. So I don't want to be owning 35 different stocks with some of this and some of that. I would rather just have most of my money in a global index fund to make it simple and then have it automated. So I invest into the same index fund every single month. And that has been the literal exact process for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And have you, apart from, I suppose, it's a bit of a daft question, but apart from COVID, have you seen some growth from like 2018 to 2019 in your index fund?
Yes. So I actually, funnily enough, just made a YouTube video revealing my Vanguard portfolio. But yeah, I think I'm up about 25%. So I think the compounded average growth rate is just over 10%, which I guess is probably the market average over the long term. But yeah, I have experienced some growth. Obviously, not as much as the people that did invest into individual stocks, because some of them, like Tesla, exploded hundreds of percent. But the important thing to realize is for investors, particularly people who are new to investing in 2020, every year is not like this. It's been a very special year in terms of the pandemic and all of the stimulus and money printing. So just if you have been lucky to make loads and loads of money this year, just make sure you're still financially educating yourself. So when there is like a sudden drop, because there will be a drop at some point, there's always ups and downs, you don't panic sell and start getting yourself into bother because of a lack of financial education and you don't know what your strategy and plan is.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know what, with the kind of opposite to that as well, like I see so many people when they see like a share price going up, that's when they buy, and it's like, no, this is like totally the wrong thing to do. I mean,
the funny thing is, people preach buy low, sell high, but 90% of people do the exact opposite, which is why, I won't get into it too much, but why I prefer index funds and not picking individual stocks, because whatever happens, I'm trying to predict what stock's going to go up. And then if it's going to go up, do you buy it today or next week or next month? And then it does go up, do you sell, you carry on holding? I just stick to index funds.
Totally agree. With myself, it's definitely index funds all the way. I've invested in 5 index funds in Vanguard, so I kind of just every month, 10% of my wage, and then that goes split into the 5. I think there's 2 ETFs and 3 funds, and then I do hold the odd individual stock, which you know what, this one individual stock that I did buy back in April time, I just typed in on Google top 10 companies to invest in. This was before I really knew what I was doing, and there was a company called iRobot that came up, and they do like these vacuums that go around the floors on their own. So I thought, I'll buy one of them shares, and that's actually been my best stock. It like, I think I bought it for like $20, and it went up to like 80. No, the highest it went to was about $90. I don't know where, I haven't checked it actually this week, but yeah, it did pretty well.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah, crazy.
I also do a few individual shares, but I mainly preach, similar to you, index funds, especially for the average person who has no interest. We obviously have finance Instagram accounts, so we are interested in researching companies, staying on top of everything. But for the average person who's got a family, maybe has a very busy career, setting up an automated payment into an index fund will do a lot more for them than trying to bet on random stock tips from the internet.
Yeah, 100%. And there's so many accounts that are preaching that, invest in Tesla, invest in Amazon, and so going back to, like, let's say, for instance, your secondary school then, being taught finance in school, it wasn't something that was ever preached to me in school. And I think that's something that should be brought into school as like an education basis. Like, we don't even learn about checkbooks in school or credit cards or nothing. It's so bad. And what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, school is abysmal for teaching anything useful, pretty much, particularly when it comes to personal finances. So I did business GCSE and economics A level. And I did economics at uni. So I had, I guess, like a bit of financial knowledge, but it was all mainly theory based. None of it was actually anything useful, like taxes, mortgages, how to budget, how to save, how to start investing, how to start a business, how to start a side hustle, all things that people, that comes under like the whole money, I guess, that realm. None of it is really taught in school. I regularly make posts actually on how there's little taught in school. And it does seem to be that in America, in some schools, there is like a personal finance class. But from who I've spoken to in the UK, and my personal experience, in England, there is nothing to do with financial education in school. So yeah, essentially, other than doing business and economics throughout school and uni, I then started self-educating in my final year of uni. But in school, useless, pretty much nothing.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful. And as you said, I did business at GCSE and like BTEC as well. But it was like, again, I didn't learn anything about taxes, accounting. To be honest, I think it was like, oh, create your own business and you've got to market it. And it was like, I did like a nightclub that sold cocktail. I can't remember what it was now, but it was like, it's so far away from what business actually is, you know?
Yeah, it's all like business, especially economics as well. Economics is even though it's interesting, it's purely theory. And then business, I remember doing stuff like cash cow and like division of labor and all these sort of theory, these old school theories where it's not actually entrepreneurship, if you know what I mean. It doesn't really help you do anything, although it is interesting to learn about at the time.
Yeah, no, it is definitely. And you know what they should do? They should get someone who runs a successful business who doesn't need to be hands-on to come in a school and pay them for their time and teach
Honestly,
this stuff.
If they got Elon Musk down my secondary school, would have been absolute scenes.
Oh my God, yeah, that would have been an investment to get him in. But I wonder how much his fee is just to get him in for a talk.
Must be 7 figures.
Easy. And actually, let's talk about Elon Musk, because he's an absolute gem of a character, isn't he? How he just does anything he wants. And I'm sure you may have heard his Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
How he was just like, oh, how are you digging a tunnel in LA? He's like, oh, we just dig a big hole. And well, how have you get that approved? Oh, it's sign a piece of paper from the government. And what? Like,
yeah, he's a legend, to be honest with you. He obviously divides opinion, but if you're trying to be an entrepreneur and essentially go after what you want, he embodies that completely and doesn't really care what anyone thinks or says about him. He just does what he thinks is best.
Yeah, like the whole flamethrower as well.
Yeah, yeah. His Twitter account is gold.
Yeah, doesn't he post like funny memes and things like that?
Yeah, he's like the ultimate meme lord on Twitter. Normally, yeah, for months, his profile picture was Doge, the Bitcoin.
No fucks given.
The famous Doge meme, and obviously the Bitcoin as well, the cryptocurrency, sorry, as well.
Yeah, no fucks given at all. But yeah, I love the guy. So your road to financial freedom, obviously that's promoted a lot on Instagram, and it's what we all want at the end of the day, isn't it? And it's, I mean, for me personally, I don't know if you feel the same. It's not so much for materialistic things; it's for security in later life, isn't it? And it's money is a byproduct of property and like cars and nice clothes. That's a byproduct of money, but it's essentially, for me, it's like security for my family, and if I need private healthcare, money helps to pay for that. And that's why I want to be financially free, and obviously to not give my time to someone else and spend my time doing the things that I find most precious. Would you agree with that, or what's your definition of financial freedom?
I completely agree with that, and I'd say another thing to add to that is traveling and holidays, where being able to essentially take yourself or your family where you want at any point in time without having any sort of constraints is the ideal situation to be in. So before I get into that, there was like this interesting book that I read that a lot of people hate on money and seem to think that if you like money and are trying to build wealth, it's some sort of evil. But in this book, there was 3 questions: what makes people most happy, what makes people most unhappy, and what causes people the most stress. And all of the top answers were money. So if you'll just listen to this now, imagine if you had an extra £100 a month, what you could do with that. Imagine an extra £500, £5,000, how much more. And as you mentioned, security, and then that's definitely a big thing. And being able to send your kids to school, and if anything happens to like a family or friend, you have enough money in a bank to be able to help them out. But I would say my big thing is probably freedom. Not obviously financial freedom is the goal, but then the main thing is time freedom, where you can essentially live life on your terms, and not have to listen to a boss, not have to wake up at 7 a.m. to get a train to work for 9 a.m., not having to be in an even office. You can be wherever you want, working for yourself, doing your own business. That'd essentially be my personal goal.
Yeah, I love that. And I thought about this the other day, and I thought when, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when for me, and I'm sure it is for you. Like,
So I've got an interesting point on this actually. So I think it's like very, very easy to actually become a millionaire when you retire. It's literally just a numbers game where all you need to do is invest a certain amount per month. And if that grows at 7%, which is the average return after inflation, if we're in our 20s, if we're investing a few £100 a month, we're going to be very wealthy, probably millionaires by the time we retire at 65, 70. But the sort of predicament is we're going to be millionaires, but you want to try and have a high enough income today, particularly in your 20s and 30s, so you can actually enjoy yourself. And as you say, have the security, the property, the car, being able to, as I mentioned, go on holiday, go traveling. So there's sort of like a trade-off where you need to be investing monthly for the long term, but at the same time doing something today to be increasing your income to a level where you can get all of them like wealthy things at a younger age rather than waiting until you're 65, 70, if you sort of get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, 100%. Because when you are that age, 70, yeah, great, I'm a millionaire, but I'm not able to do much now. So I have to just give it to the kids.
Yeah, literally. And that's the thing as well on that. So people do hate on, I do hear people say, what's the point in investing? I'd rather enjoy myself now. I'd certainly rather be investing now and guarantee myself to be a millionaire when I'm 65 and 70, rather than doing nothing and just spending all my money. But the predicament is, you need to try and do something today to increase your income, whether it's like a side hustle, getting a pay rise, getting other income streams, means you can also build essentially your memories and life today, whilst not sacrificing your future millionaire status over the long term.
I agree. And it's like, you know what, like I'm not telling people to completely strip back on having one holiday a year, but maybe instead of it being an extravagant holiday to like Las Vegas or the Maldives, maybe just have a weekend break away in like Belgium or something, like it's over the road, and then maybe have these small weekend breaks that don't really break the bank, and then still invest. And then when you do reach retirement age, you've got, 60 to 70 and 70 to 80 to you and go and travel around the world with your missus on a yacht somewhere, like 20 years of full on traveling because you've delayed gratification. So
this is actually a thing as well that in a book called I Will Teach You How to Be Rich, which is a really good book, I'd recommend it. But he sort of talks about like a conscious spending plan. So how it works is you can spend money on whatever you want. People criticize a lot of people our age, particularly for, buying coffees or maybe buying brands that we don't need or going on too many holidays. But the thing is, you literally can spend your money on whatever you want, provided that you've saved and invested a set amount each month. If your aim is to save 20% of your income a month and you've saved 20%, feel free to do whatever you want with the rest of your money. Go to the Maldives, buy a coffee every day. But if you're literally not investing any money and you're still doing all of them extravagant things, that's where the problem is, because you're not building anything for the future. You're just sacrificing everything to fulfill that instant gratification. So you need to save and invest first, and then do whatever you want with the rest of your money, essentially.
Yeah, it's almost like pay your future self, and then that little bit of money you got left, whether that's considered a big bit or a small bit, enjoy yourself with it. It's kind of, I call it like after you've paid yourself first, your investments, your emergency fund, and then you've got play money then, which is like the last bit of your money.
Yeah, exactly. And I've actually got something you just mentioned. I've got another good thing on that. So I actually tweeted this the other day. I read it in a book. I'm not sure what book, but it was years ago. But if the government taxed you, if the government said today they're going to increase taxes an extra 10%, me and you would have to pay 10% more in tax. It doesn't matter what our lifestyle is. We would have to make changes to essentially pay that extra 10% in tax. So when you're paying yourself first, if you're struggling to do it, you need to essentially view it as a tax. You need to tax yourself 10% and then make your lifestyle fit around that, so you can still pay yourself first at 10% by investing it. And it's literally obviously the best tax you'll ever pay, because it's going to your future self.
Yeah, that's so true. And I hope the government don't do that.
Yeah. But if they did, you'd have to find a way. And it's the same. So you need to do that to yourself to essentially find a way.
Well, to be fair, like I lived in Australia for a year and a half, nearly 2 years, and their tax is 30% of their wage.
Just a flat fee.
For 30%. The more, and obviously the more you earn after that, it goes up more.
Okay.
But I was taxed 15% because I was a backpacker, so it was like backpacker tax. But like the wage is better there. So, I was getting paid $30 an hour just from sweeping floors on construction sites.
Mm-hmm. But then is it relative the same, or is it still better off, if you know what I mean?
I'd say it's still better off, because before I got there, everyone was saying, yeah, the wage might be good, but the cost of living is more expensive. But that depends on what you're living like. Like if you're going to go out on the piss every weekend, because just a disclaimer, I don't do drugs, right? But like I know that drugs in Australia, right? It's $300 for a gram of coke, right? Compared to the UK, I don't know how much is in the UK because I've never touched drugs, but no, I have. I've touched MDMA, but never coke. But what I'm trying to say is, I had colleagues I was working with on the construction site that would spend their
money.
Yeah, exactly, on a weekend, and they'll be getting paid like $1,500 a week, right? And that would be gone, or like they'd have $200 left. Whereas me, I was probably saving.
That's just silly.
I was saving probably $1,100 a week.
Oh wow!
And then going traveling with so I would work for a long period, then travel for a long period, and that's what I would do. But it just depends how extravagant your lifestyle is, So it's there you go. It's like that's
interesting.
It's slightly more, yeah.
No, thank you for the information.
Yeah, it's good. But if you can get out there at some point, then 100% do it. All right, credit score. Then let's talk about credit score. So you're a big advocate of credit cards and credit score, and you put a lot of posts out about it. So yeah, tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. So first thing I will say is I personally am a big fan of credit cards, and I believe if you're going to be responsible and pay off in full every single month without fail, then it's literally a no-brainer because you'll get free cash, free perks, and free rewards. However, the problem is most people do not pay off in full. So if you get a credit card, please make sure you pay off in full, and you essentially get rewarded, as I mentioned, with free cash and rewards. But moving on to credit score. So when it comes to credit score, there are a few high impact items. You can Google these just to find a full list, but a few of the big ones are: number one, payment history. So essentially, you never second credit when you open one up, or if you have one now, make sure you set it up a direct debit so it gets paid off in full every single month. By paying off in full, that is literally the best thing you can do for your credit score. Do that for a few months and a few years, and your credit score will be better than the majority of the country. Another thing that impacts your credit score, which is a bit more technical, is called your credit utilization. So just say you've got on £1,000 credit limit. If you are using £990 every single month, you are signaling to the credit card provider that you're essentially nearly not able to afford that credit because you're nearly going over every single month. However, if you're only spending £200, you're essentially showing you're responsible and you can be trusted because you've got this £1,000 of free money and you're only spending £200 a month. So it's not an exact science, but they say the best general way or sort of number to keep your credit utilization to is 25 to 30%. So when you first open up a credit card, my first credit card, my credit limit, was only £300 or £200. So it was quite hard to keep my utilization low. However, particularly over the months, as your credit score grows to 4 figures and then 5 figures, if you can try and keep your utilization as low as possible, that will be another thing that benefits your credit score. Another one, you can do a few admin things like get on the electoral roll. That's the one that comes to mind. Another high impact item, so this will be the last one I'll talk about, this is the fourth one, is credit limit. So your actual amount of credit limit is another high impact item that affects your credit score, which essentially means if you have £5,000 available to you instead of £1,000, that is better because you're having more money lended to you. Try and apply for a credit limit increase every 6 months. So then you will have everything working together. You're paying it off in full, you're keeping your utilization low, and your credit limit is slowly growing over time, and you're continuing to pay off in full and be responsible and trustworthy. But yeah, as I mentioned, just Google high impact items, and then there's like I think there's 6 or 8 things that will impact your credit score. But those 3 that I mentioned are probably the most important, and they make up, I think, definitely over about 60% of your credit score, at least, if not more.
Yeah, perfect. So there's some really good tips there. Even yeah, I think they'll really help people actually that listen to this, because I think people get quite scared of credit cards because they're deemed bad, aren't they? But in fact, they are needed to obviously build it so you can get things like mortgages, etc.
Yeah. So this comes back, sorry to interrupt you,
to
how a lack of financial, I think credit cards are probably the most important thing for financial education that should be taught in schools, because the amount of people I see and speak to, especially on Instagram, who are like between 18 and 25 that have no idea what they're doing and are in thousands of pounds of debt and have thousands of pounds of interest to pay because they have no idea how to responsibly manage essentially the free money that they're getting from credit. So although I'm a big advocate of credit cards, if you know you're an impulse buyer and you're not going to be able to pay off in full, then it's probably best just not getting yourself in that agony of being in loads of debt and paying loads of interest. It's only use them if you're going to be responsible. But I think it does a lot come back to school and how there's a lack of financial education around credit cards. And then people just find themselves in a mountain of debt before they've even really started their adult life. And then you get these horror stories of people who hate credit cards, and that's sort of how that sort of like motto develops about credit cards being bad. But the truth is, I've had the credit card now for 2.5 years. I have got an excellent credit score on the 3 main credit agencies, and I've never paid a penny in interest. And just a quick thing on the credit agencies. So there's 3 main credit agencies where you can, which essentially track your credit score. So there's Experian, which is probably the one you've heard of. That's advertised quite a lot on TV. Then there's also TransUnion and Equifax. And the scores are they're a bit pointless in a sense, although they all sort of use similar high impact items to measure the score. And they're probably they're the biggest 3. So if you're going to apply for a mortgage or for car finance, it's likely that the lender is probably going to check one of your score on all 3, which is why it's important, if you can, to sign up and check your score probably at least once every 3 or 4 months, just to make sure there's nothing strange on there or nothing you wouldn't expect. And I made a post on this recently, but the way to check all 3, so your Experian credit score, you can check on Experian. Your TransUnion credit score, you can check on Credit Karma. And your Equifax credit score, you can check on ClearScore. So you can sign up for them free accounts, log on once every 3 or 4 months, and just make sure everything's in order and there's not sort of any weird marks or anything on your credit report.
Perfect.
Sorry,
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I think that's the sort of information people want to hear. So I actually didn't know about the second one you mentioned. I use ClearScore and Experian, but I'd never heard of the other one actually. So yeah,
I think Credit Karma is actually my favorite as well. So I would definitely recommend you signing up for that. It's pretty cool. So it's actually similar to ClearScore in the sense that you get a credit report and also tracks your credit score over time. So it's probably actually similar to ClearScore, but that was the first one that I used. So I guess I'm a bit biased to the endowment effect.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you know what? Like, it just goes to show, like, as you said about the education side of things with credit cards. I because I talk about credit cards and whatever, like I get adverts for them pop up on Facebook, and one came up was an American Express card, and there was a comment on it from this lady, and she was saying, nobody get credit cards because they're bad and this, and I was like, what? No, credit cards are great for building your credit score, and she just didn't have nothing to say back to it, and it's like there's like this woman she looked like she was in her 40s or whatever, but still there's that lack of financial education at that age. But I'm hoping now that people like you and I that are on Instagram now and are kind of promoting that money can be made simple, which is obviously your ethos.
On brand.
Yeah, on brand straight away. That there hopefully will be a shift in more and more people were learning about it, but that's what we'd like to hope anyway. Yeah, and I'm sure Martin Lewis was trying to get it in schools, financial education.
Oh, I'd definitely back that. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. I hope. Well, I hope, but I'd back if there's a petition for it. I'd definitely back it. So yeah, what are your long term? What are your long term goals, Ryan?
So long term, I would love to have my own business. I think it'd be great if I could take and that brand. Particularly this year is going to be a focus on growing the YouTube channel, which is new, the podcast and the blog. And I think it'd be great if the dream would be to essentially make enough income and passive income from, I guess, like the making money simple and all the different avenues that I can essentially have my own business and then no longer need to rely on the 9-to-5 income. I think in the medium term, I'll have to carry on working my 9-to-5 day job, and that can then, and also people hate on 9-to-5s, but at the end of the day, it's good being employed because you're getting constant, pretty steady and stable income that you can use every single month to invest and save. But the long-term goal, definitely have my own business, hopefully be my own boss. And then as we mentioned, hopefully achieve financial freedom and time freedom at a fairly young age, hopefully in my 30s and then enjoy the rest of my life. But yeah, I think I'll always continue to promote financial education, and I would love to be able to get some sort of financial education program into schools, or something that's a bit more mainstream rather than at the moment it's just on social media. Something similar to, I guess, Martin Lewis, but maybe, yeah, similar to him, but push what he's trying to push and get financial education in schools, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and I'd totally back you 100% if you used to do that. Yeah.
Cheers, Shane. Appreciate the support.
Yeah, I'd love it. Yeah, just because like when I have children, that's something that I'm going to be teaching them pretty much on a daily basis, without making it boring either. Like there'll be ways to like make it fun.
100%. 100%.
Cool. That's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about your ebook. Now your ebook's done incredibly well so far, and it's free for everyone that's listening. But talk to us a bit about why you created it and where it's available as well.
Yeah, so it's called Making Investing Simple. I wrote it during lockdown in between May and July 2020, and I released it in August 2020. It's currently got over 1,500 downloads. I think maybe even 1,600 now, so it's pretty mad. But the reason was I kept getting the same common questions in DMs, just mainly about how to start investing, what are index funds, what's an ISA, basic questions. Well, basic to me and you because we obviously research this stuff, but to the average person, when you think there's 70 million people in the UK, it's still pretty relatively unknown. And I'd say financial education, even though it's been around probably since Rich Dad Poor Dad over 20 years ago, it's still probably a bit of a niche subject, which is a bit of a shame, really. And it does need to be more mainstream. But that, I guess, questions I kept getting on a daily basis led me to writing an ebook. And a lot of people do sell courses and books. And I would one day love to be able to sell a course or a book. And as I mentioned, turn Making Money Simple into sort of like a long-term thing. But I just wanted to make a free ebook just for the beginner investor who has no idea where to start, no idea what investing is. And what the ebook does is it essentially walks through the absolute basics, such as what is investing, why invest, what is the stock market. And then it sort of looks onto, how to keep your fees low, how to keep your taxes low through ISAs, how to choose a broker. And then towards the end, it gets on a few more complicated topics like index funds, diversification, compounding, dollar cost averaging. But it's essentially a 61-page book that I wrote online. It's completely free. You can download it just by going to my Instagram, and it's the link in my bio. And yeah, I've got quite a lot of good feedback on it. People seem to have enjoyed it. People still are. And one thing I always say to people, if you do read it and do have any questions, just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send you a voice note back explaining the question in the best way possible.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I've actually downloaded it myself just to have a look to see how good it is, and I can say that it's actually pretty good, and it's thorough, and it's kind of straight to the point, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's pretty simple, and it's really well designed too, I must add. It's good branding.
Thank you. All about the aesthetic. The content is irrelevant. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one. All right, cool. So moving on from your ebook nicely into book recommendations. What are your, let's say, top? I'm going to go for top 2 books. That people should start reading, like from the basics.
I'll give you 3 books. Okay. I don't know about my top 2, but yeah. Okay. So I've got a section. I've got like a story highlight called book recommendations, and it essentially swipes up to Amazon, and it's got, so I think there's 5 must-read books, but the top 3 I would say, number 1, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's recommended a lot, and I feel people almost get a bit annoyed when people recommend that book because it's so recommended. But the fact is, it's the first book I ever read on personal finance. It's usually the first book most people read, and it's mainly because it gives you the mindset, and you just start looking at, you'll read it and then you'll think about things you thought about years ago and then how you were actually wrong, and how like school is wrong, and how things you get taught at home are wrong. And it just opens your eyes. The main criticism is there's not much practical advice, but it's a guide. So it's essentially trying to give you the mindset to enable you to, start building wealth. And it doesn't tell you, go to Leicester and buy 2 properties on this street. And then it's more of a guide to building wealth. So that would be number 1. Number 2 would be Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins, which is the book's 700 pages. It's an absolute beast. And essentially, it's more, it's probably more specific than Rich Dad Poor Dad. It goes through loads of the different myths that people have when it comes to investing. I think there's 7 or 9 myths. It breaks them down and completely destroys them. It goes a lot through index funds and how that's the best way to invest. And then it goes on to the last part of the book where Tony Robbins interviews some of the world's greatest investors like Warren Buffett, and he essentially just makes notes of his interviews and what they said. And then the third and final book is the Little Book of Common Sense Investing, which very close to my heart. Is written by the founder of Vanguard, who also founded index funds. Probably he 100% is the person who has made the biggest impact in the investing world by a mile. In 1975, when Vanguard was founded, I think it was when it was founded, and then the index fund came about. To invest, you had to be rich. You had to pay a lot of fees. Jack Bogle and Vanguard completely destroyed that. So literally now, today, anyone can invest for a low fee. And the book goes through index funds, goes through the whole passive versus active approach, and why passive investing through index funds wins 99% of the time over the long term. There's also quite a lot of good analogies and anecdotes and stories from his time of index funds and building them from the ground up, because he really was the innovator. And he was, as I said, the founder of index funds. And that essentially is probably the best and easiest and most automated vehicle for the average person to build their wealth. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Money Master the Game, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing, them 3 books will probably cost you, not even £30, probably about £25. And if you read them 3 books, smash them out in a month or 2, you will know more than 99% of people and actually have some idea of how to start building wealth.
Yeah, totally agree, 100%.
And then make it investing simple, free ebook.
Get the free ebook whilst you're at it as well. Yeah, it's only 60 pages. Read it on your lunch break. Rich Dad Poor Dad was kind of like my first. Well, it was technically my second book, but my first book was The Richest Man in Babylon.
That's my 4th one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book, isn't it? And it's written like biblical terms, but it's just the principles about it, and they're just really it's just great how it's put into a story, the principles of the story. It's just fantastic.
These are old school parables, and the lessons from thousands of years ago can still be applied today, and the rules of money haven't changed from thousands of years ago. That was actually my third until I read The Little Book of Common Sense Investing in about, I think it was the summer of 2020. So now Rich Dad in Babylon's 4th, and then 5th is I Will Teach You How to Be Rich. So that's my top 5.
Nice.
Just full disclaimer. I enjoy that book, and it's also very short as well. So you can literally read it in a few hours, and then once again have all the sort of lessons you need to be able to start building wealth.
Yeah, those books are. So to begin with, those 5 books are absolutely perfect. So if you are listening, then grab yourself any of those and start learning. Cool. So this leaves us to the final part of the show. So just a quick random 3 questions that I ask all my guests.
Yeah.
So if you are a frequent listener, then you'll know these questions. So question 1 is, what is your favorite movie?
Saving Private Ryan.
That is so weird. I was watching that before this call.
I know.
It's just come on Netflix.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's just come on Netflix. So I started watching it before this call.
What a film. What a coincidence. Also a great name.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Ryan. Yeah, perfect film. Filmed beautifully. Very sad, actually. But awesome movie. It deserved all the Oscars it got. Cool. What's your favourite destination?
I'd say the best country I've been to is Vietnam.
Me too.
Really?
That's my favourite country that I've been to. I know. What's going on?
I don't know my favourite country, but definitely the most amazing place I've been to is Vietnam.
Yeah. Have you been to Sapa in Vietnam at all?
No, I don't think I went there.
Up north.
I went to Hanoi.
Hanoi, yeah.
Hanoi, and then Ha Long Bay.
Halong Bay, yeah. So it was either I chose out of Halong Bay or Sapa. So I went to Sapa and stayed in this little village in the mountains in the rice paddy fields for the evening.
Oh, I did a similar thing to that in Laos, where I stayed in a village. I had to go down a river, miles away from anything. There was like a little village or randomly, and then we stayed there for a night in like malaria nets and stuff.
Was it
mental.
the 1,000 Islands? Is that what it's called or something? Or the?
I'm not gonna lie, I
Down.
can't remember. I really can't remember. It's
Yeah.
probably something similar to what you done, but yeah, that was honestly mind blowing.
Yeah, Laos a bit of a weird country, isn't it? It's
Very, very like underdeveloped and yeah, very, very developing country.
yeah, 100%. But you know, the people there are lovely, lovely, lovely people. All right, third and final question. Name something that grinds your gears.
So the first thing that comes to mind is when people moan about things, little things, pointless and irrelevant. So just say you spilt a drink, a bit of water on the carpet, and then someone starts moaning about it. I'm just like, it's not really an issue, is it? Just relax. There's more important things to worry about. And also, staying on brand, people that don't invest, obviously.
Yes, I love that one. That's great. I love that one. In fact, just touching on that, actually, that's a big one, isn't it? People go, oh, well, I don't have enough money to invest, when, you know, all you need is, you know, even if it's £5 or £10, it's £5 or £10. That's all you need, isn't it, to start?
It literally takes 10 minutes and £10 to start investing.
Yeah, it's that simple, guys. Making money simple and all that.
You know the drill.
Staying on brand, this whole talk. All right, cool. So, excellent. So we'll just wrap up the show there. But I just want to know, how can people get in touch with you, Ryan?
The best way is just through Instagram, which is at Making Money Simple. Send me a DM. I'll normally get back to you within a day, probably send you a voice note if you have any questions. But yeah, most of my socials are Making Money Simple. So whatever social media you're on, just have a search for that. But most likely way I'll respond will be on Instagram, because I'm on that regularly. And one thing to plug, actually, going to be starting a YouTube channel. It will already be live by the time this goes out. So Making Money Simple on YouTube. Just go and check out the videos, see if you enjoy them, see what you think. Any videos you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments.
Perfect. And I will pop this video as well on YouTube, so it will just be below in the description. So I'll link that. But to all the viewers of the video and not so much the audio, apologies about the editing of it, because it was filmed during Tier 4 lockdown. So apologies for that. Okay.
Well, thank you for having me on though, Shane. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's been great chatting to you this morning, mate.
Yeah, Ryan, it's been a great talk with you. And again, apologies for the internet connection over here.
No worries at all.
It's like we're living in the 1920s or something.
Lockdown and Zoom, not the best combo.
It's not, but let's soon hope to get out there and meet each other in person. Cool. Well,
sounds good.
Yeah, so everyone, that's been Making Money Simple. Ryan, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, Shane. Been a pleasure, mate. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, everyone, I'll see you next week, and ciao for now.